one and all, and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Pattinson, and as always, we're joined by Ethan Daffy. And today, we are previewing our round 17 clash. Just get that through your head right now. Round 17 in the AFL season. We're up to the 6th. We're obviously playing on the 6th of July this Saturday, but it's obviously against the GWS Giants, 7:30 p.m. at NG Stadium. But Daff Boy, I mean, obviously, as I just said, it's round 17. It's crazy how quickly that season goes, and we're already into the business end of the season, but we're also up to the 2nd of July. We're obviously recording this on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. But first things first, mate, how are you? And what's your overall initial thoughts ahead of the game?
No, I'm good, mate. I keep thinking about it. It's just a weird feeling at the moment. I don't really know what to think. It's just we're just steamrolling teams left, right, and center every week. We're 11-4. We're second on the ladder. Everyone's pumping our tires up. I feel like some of the media commentary is trying to jinx us in the end later in the year by saying we're the favourites. Apparently, after Sydney lose one game, it's a very interesting thing they're doing there. I feel like they're trying to, I don't know, they're trying to put the pressure on us rather, which is an interesting kind of dialogue in itself. But I think we just focus on ourselves like we did have the whole year. Don't worry about anything else. And another challenge this week. And let's be real, I think we should be getting the job done against this side. I'm not saying they're no good, but we've got a few outs. They got Taylor out again. He was out when we played him last time. So, and obviously Josh Kelly out out for 5 weeks with a calf. So, and they're 10 I was just looking at. So they lose this. They lose touch on those kind of, eight teams that are within 2 points of each other. So it's going to be an interesting clash.
Yeah, I think a guy like Josh Kelly's instrumental to the Giants, I reckon, and he's been really good this year in terms of trying to he's kicking more goals in the season as well. Like he's always got the footy, but I think I don't know what his average is right now, but he's getting a lot more of the footy, and it seems like he's impacting the scoreboard as well. So I don't know if that's just the overall evolution of the midfielders kind of kicking more goals, because I think every single midfielder this year has kind of done that. But Josh Kelly has been one of the players that I've seen from the Giants' point of view that he's been really good this season. And I mean, as we just said, I think that's a massive out. But I just thought I would go back to what you said then about the media kind of putting the pressure on Carlton. And obviously, as you said, like Sydney's lost one game and they've been a team that's kind of been invincible the whole year. And they lost to Fremantle only by a point, and Fremantle are third on the ladder anyway. So it's not like they're a poor side. So do you think it is the media kind of putting the pressure on Carlton because Sydney's just had one loss and we're kind of flying at the moment? Or do you think it's kind of I mean, obviously it's to get clicks at the end of the day, because no matter what, if you mention Carlton, it's going to get clicks. If they kind of put it to a point of like Sydney lost a game and they were meant to be invincible, now it'll be like, what the fuck? They've lost one game. Let's get over it. How do you see that all happen? Because I know your point of view, and my point of view is I'm not a huge fan of the media anyway. I think it is all just a bit of fake news. They care more about the clicks rather than the actual facts.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's your overall thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, we love consuming that stuff. And I think that's also why fan channels at the moment are buzzing, not just Carlton, but other ones. I actually met a few through work. I met a few Hawthorn guys when I was at the game a few weeks ago in the rooms, and they actually got access to the rooms every week. Their podcast, they get access to the rooms every week, and I was just chatting to them, and they were just saying how much growth they've had over the last 12 months of fan content. I think it's taking over because, like you said, it's not for clicks. It's for the love. It's for the love of the club and only the interest of the club, not interest of clicks. Of course the numbers are great, etc., but it's not about that. We're doing this to, have an outlet. And I feel like sometimes, like you said, sometimes these media outlets, they're trying to push an agenda, and their new agenda right now. 5 weeks ago, the agenda was, we were winning, losing. Like people were going, oh, we're not consistent enough. We win 5 games in a row, and we're not even first on the ladder. And all of a sudden, we're premiership favourites. I'm not saying we can't be, but it's like, oh, we're just Sydney, they lose one game, like you said, against third place. Like, and they're probably due to drop one. Let's be real.
Yeah.
They should have lost by more on the weekend. Freo should have put the foot on the throat, and they didn't. And that kind of tells me a lot about Freo too, because I feel like if we're in that position, we put the foot on the throat. But yeah, I think we just need to not get too sucked into this opinions and stuff like that. We can always have our say on what people say, but I think if we get caught up on, like someone in the comments said about, let's just not, not bag our players. Let's support these guys. Don't be a buzzkill, like the person said on the comments. And I feel like the media sometimes love to pump up your tires. So when you fail, if you fail,
Yes.
they bring you down. And I feel like it's similar with like Collingwood and stuff like that. Even last year in that month, when they were losing probably round 17 to 21, everyone's going, oh no, they're done. They're cooked. You know what I mean? It's funny, isn't it? It's just it's a never-ending cycle. But if you win the premiership, everyone shuts up for 6 months, which is what the ultimate goal is, Patto.
Yeah, you could not have said it any better. And I think a bit of our own example was Orazio Fantasia of even our own supporters, like our own supporters turning on our own players. Like, it's understandable in 2018 when we aren't winning any games, but we're second on the ladder. We're the most informed. I will say this right now: we are the most informed team at the moment, and that is including Sydney. And I know that might come across as a bit biased, but and a lot of people know that I am quite like I'm not the most over. Like, I don't like kind of pumping up our own tires because I want to just try and be as simple as possible. But then when it comes to the point of like, we need to try and be over the top about this, that's when I will be.
Yeah.
But that I'm kind of always at the point of I don't like kind of pumping up our own tires too much because then it will come back to bite me in the butt. But Orazio is a different story of like he actually is finding a way to still play in their best 22 in a side who's second on the ladder. And also, as I just said, might be the best team in the competition right now in terms of form, yet he still gets shit talked. And last week, that's what I hate also. The conversation completely changes. Every single person that have shit talked Orazio the past 2 months have just completely been like, oh, yes, Orazio, we love you, Orazio. Why don't you kick 4 goals, mate? Fantastic. You're in the side for the rest of the year. No.
Yeah.
The most important part of a supporter is supporting them through thick and thin, through the high and lows, no matter what. And this is what Carlton supporters are. That's why I love being a Carlton supporter, because I feel like a lot of Carlton supporters are always loyal, no matter what. Like, even if we drop our form, we kind of always stick to that. Like, we don't lose a lot of members. Like, say, like Richmond a couple of years ago, they kind of dropped their members, and that's fine. Like that was through COVID as well. So obviously, there's different reasons for that, but I just think that Carlton are so loyal with our supporters, and it's just surprising to see that, because I'm like, it's a guy that has obviously made a career out of himself at Essendon and Port Adelaide, and he's come over to Carlton, a big club. Give him the opportunity. Like, you've got 100,000 members, and you're shit talking him, and he would know that as well. So he probably felt the expectations, and then he's going out and kicking goals, and he's probably like, oh, finally get around me. This is great. But I'm like, I hope he's in the mindset of like, well, I mean, I don't know. Like I don't know how he thinks, but it's just like, what's your own thoughts about that?
I did you see the video, Terry's video talking about the supporters? I don't know. He did a video. If you haven't seen it, people watching, and Patty, you included, after this, give it a watch, because it's like a 2-minute part of his review. Just talking about, stop bagging our players.
Yes.
Stop. Doesn't matter how they perform. Obviously, if you talk about on-field stuff, etc. But I'm not here. The one thing, and it was seen at the start of this year, and it's kind of got quieter and quieter, was with Harry Mackay. I used to hear people behind me going, oh no, oh, drop him, he shouldn't be playing, da 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 da. It's not just individuals, but it's just, how about we take that energy, right, on game day at the G, and why don't we if you're going to bag anyone, bag the shit out of the opponent. I want that energy. Grand final day, I want Brodie Grundy out there if we're playing Sydney or whoever. Pretend we make the grand final. I don't want you going, oh, no, Harry's lining up for goal. Oh, Orazio get a kick. No, I want you going, blah, 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 not, stupid stuff. But Make it hostile for them. Make them not
It's
want to play Carlton in the MCG.
mm,
Not going, curse words, whatever. Just like on the weekend, I might have said a few words to Shy Bolton. And we all were in a way. Like the crowd was. It was just that
yeah,
kind of vibe, but we were all together against them. Don't be having a go at our own because the other teams have a go at our own too
yeah.
much. Cripper probably cops off from Collingwood. You know what I mean? They probably cop it enough from opposition and media. But they don't want to cop it from our own people. And that's what I'm kind of sick of. Just sit there and enjoy it. Like you said, we're second on the ladder.
Yeah.
We were doing podcasts last year about 9 weeks in a row of losing, right? And we didn't want to go on podcast. There was a point there where we were both going, gee, what do
Oh,
we even say?
yeah.
What do we even say? And now you look at it and go, it's almost the complete opposite going, what do we even say after a win? Because we just win by 60 again. You know what I mean? It's just enjoy it. I've been saying it since probably round 5. We are a 10 times better team. Put the PTSD in the past. Put that, the shit years we might have had fringe players. We don't have that anymore. We're a good team. Doesn't matter who's in the team. Doesn't matter how they perform in 1 week. They're part of the Carlton community. Just fucking support them. Because I'll tell you what, that game on the weekend, Orazio kicking those goals, we get around him. I'm telling you, he's going to peak at the right time this year. And I think the coaches see something in him that a lot of people haven't seen.
Yeah. And I think that's what like a Michael Voss, like a bit of this selection integrity was kind of questioned in terms of why we still picking Orazio. But I think that's probably one of the things with Michael Voss of what he's been really great over the past. I mean, probably 2023 and 2024 this year. He's been really good at selecting the right players, and we still kind of. And then I'm probably one of those people through that period. I was probably one of those like, oh no, why is he playing? But then like we kind of spoke about it, and then we were like, wait, it's Michael Voss.
But trust him.
Yeah, just trust
him
him.
more than we do.
Yep.
We know we love to think that we know everything, right? And of course we know a lot of stuff, but they know more than us. And for me, we've got to have the full trust in them. We're at round 17 and we're 11-4. I think they've probably, figured out a system, how people want to play, what roles they play. I think they know by 17 weeks into the season what decisions they're going to make. And I don't think they give a rat's ass what John from bloody Ivanhoe on the comments says. You know what I mean? So we just got to back them in. And it's the same as the players. Back the coaches and back the players in. And trust me, backing gives them confidence to go out there.
Yeah. And then that's why I'm kind of glad that I'm kind of not involved in the club, because if I was the coach of the club, I would have brought back Andreas Everett. I would have brought back Jed Lamb. Would have brought back Tom Bug as well. Those three, they might take us to the promised land, that boy. Buggy. But the buggy. Buggy. I don't think he even played a game for the club.
He had about 3 weeks of preseason and then decided to retire.
Because I think his fiance was making too much or something. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Overseas or something. Yeah, something like that.
Weird about it. But I was just about to ask you before we actually moved to the run sheet. I've gone on a bit of a tangent here, but what are the mentions about trying to not bag your own players or bag the opposition? One of the great examples was Carlton versus Geelong. This was before he slung Walshy as well.
Yeah.
Came over and I'm like, fuck you, Paddy. And I reckon he heard it because he was just quiet. I'm like, oh no, because I said it, but then I thought everyone was going to say something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, surely everyone would be like, oh fuck you, but and then like, here's me, one person there who's usually like the most quiet supporter. I usually like zone everything in and just be quiet. I just should yell out, "Hey, you, Paddy," and then it just quiet. I'm like, I already actually heard that. So I don't know if he then was pissed about that and then chugged something Walsh down. I don't know, but what were you about to say?
Yeah, no, there was the same. This is obviously a little bit off Carlton, but I was at a game with my old man last year. It was Melbourne Adelaide, and they got a free kick, Adelaide, right in front of us, and Luke Pedler. It wasn't his free kick, but it was. It might have been Rankin's free kick or something, and he was passing the ball to his teammate and missed the target, right? Because he's playing like shit. So he missed that target too. So the old man goes, "You've missed that target too, Pedler." And he turned around and laughed. Not even a word of a lie. It was so quiet. And my dad's Melbourne game.
Yeah.
Not expecting it to be packed. to the
Yeah.
rafters. He goes, you missed that target too, Pedlar. It's a bit of a joke. And he turned around and actually laughed. Not even a word of a lie. That was the funniest, one of the funniest moments I've ever had with the footy.
Luke Pedlar, is he playing for the Crows still?
Yeah, he goes all right. I think he was playing twos. Like, who cares about them anyway?
Exactly right. But definitely, let's now move on to, of course, the the injury list. And there's obviously a few names that is obviously a negative from our point of view, but also maybe a positive coming on through the names. But I'm going to throw it to you, Daffy Boy, with because obviously you have done the injury list, so I thought I would give you the reins, mate, of the injury list. What sort of players are coming in this week, and also the big injury there that you will touch on.
Yeah, well, for me, you look at that injury list and it's probably good news, I think, like as a whole. I know there's probably one in particular that isn't great news, but it's not, there's no major injuries coming out of what we probably might have expected after Sunday's game. There's a lot of talk, especially around Matt Kennedy. Obviously, he's a test this week, which is, wow. I was thinking at least like a 3 to 4 weeker because he had issues last year with his MCL. I think he did it in that Fremantle game, if I remember. Gee, I'm a nuffy, how I remember that. But he did it in the Freo game. I remember over there and missed probably a big chunk before the finals, but it ended up coming back as a half forward in the finals for Jack Martin in that semi-final. But yeah, it's really good news. Obviously, it was knee soreness, so no damage to the knee. I think he'll play this week, to be honest. They'll probably just rest him up and get him right. The negative one, I'll shoot to you after I go through these injuries. But Corey Durden in the VFL, I did actually see it happen on TV. Looked like he was in discomfort. Obviously, looked like a dislocated shoulder, which it was. He'll be reassessed in the next fortnight. He had issues with his shoulder last year, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, he's
Or even
had
the start of this year. He's had a little,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
2022 as well. Like he just had those
yeah,
issues, and he always had those two shoulder straps. So I don't know if it's
yeah.
a
No, you're
David
right.
Cunningham sort of
He's
thing as
kind of had
well.
like a recurring injury
Mm,
to his shoulder. So
yeah,
hopefully that's not too long. And obviously the last two, Tom De Koning, obviously he was managed last week. He'll come in. I could see them both playing this weekend, but we'll get to the selection later on in the video. But the last one, he's been out for a while. I was going to call him some sort of nickname, but Matty Cottrell, um, he's a test this week. You know, who knows? That's another conversation. Do you pull the trigger? I'm not sure. Do you pull the trigger on Cotters? But it's good to see that he's back in the mix because that's going to put more pressure on spots for sure, which is going to be selection's going to be a headache come around August, September for Vossi and the rest of the coaching crew. But as you look at the injury list, Patto, what's your overall thoughts?
yeah. I think Candy is a massive positive, obviously, because as soon as you kind of saw it and obviously sent me the message about it, the potential MCL injury, and obviously Mitch Cleary reported that it's not as bad, but I think Sam Edmund was the guy that I don't want to say anything if it's not correct, but I think it was Sam Edmund who thought it was obviously a little bit worse than what like we probably expected it to be quite bad, and he agreed. He thought the same thing, and I don't know if that was just because Matt Kennedy obviously had the injury last year as well, so like a bit more of the worry of
Yeah.
he's had the history, and it obviously looked like a similar injury, and he didn't really walk off. Normally, he walked off with what looked like a classic MCL injury, so that's obviously very positive to see that. But yeah, Corey Durden is stiff, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like he's played a lot of games this year, whether it's sub or actually in the best 22. He's done well, and I think what I would have loved to see from Durden, probably not play in the seniors anymore, but really get your confidence in the VFL and maybe change a few things up. But now he can't do that because he's obviously got the few weeks off, and yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure if maybe he would be out for maybe a month or so. I
Yeah.
would assume with a dislocated
I
shoulder.
imagine if it's reassessing in a fortnight, you'd want to get him right playing. It usually takes probably another couple of weeks, but who knows? Like sometimes dislocated shoulder can be like it could be really major, but sometimes it's. I guess at this stage of the season, you're probably not going in for surgery at all, so you're probably just going to run with taping it and making sure it's right. So, once again, I messaged you before saying I just don't know. He's going to be back in the pecking order now, with Motlop fit and ready to go, so he's probably behind him now. So. And obviously Jesse's another conversation in itself.
Yeah, no, exactly right. So is that all you want to try and touch on for the injury list? Is there any update, I guess, on Jack Martin and where you think potentially he could come in this week if he maybe does get through his training process, but also if the club maybe does decide to pick him?
Yeah, there was no real update on him this week, which I find odd and probably
Yeah.
gives us the answer, doesn't it?
Yep.
I'd imagine. I don't know. I don't want to be going to conclusions, but if you put in Cottrell and DeConing on this list as tests, and especially Cotters after a long termer, you'd expect if Jack Martin was to be available, he would be on the same kind of availability in a test. So I'm not in a rush him back. Who we got next week?
Dogs.
It'd be nice to bring him under the dome, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Put them away. But yeah, all in all, the injury list is looking good, touch wood. So it's good.
Yeah, so let's now move into our ins and outs. Now, I thought I would just ask you a question because one of my outs is Matt Kennedy. And
Ooh.
they're
Oh,
due to the injury. So have you got Matt Kennedy as an out as well?
no, I've got
Okay.
him in.
I
Yeah.
will not include Kenny as an out then and assume he's playing this week. So that changes a lot of things actually. So I'll point to you because I need to reassess the whole ins and outs, mate. But your ins and outs, including the sub, if there is a change there, what's your overall thoughts?
Oh, it's tough. The one bit that's making it hard for me is, do we play the two rucks? Do we play the two rucks? And it's that conversation again, Patto, that we love to bring up on this channel. Do we play two rucks or not? But I'll just go through my outs. I've made the decision. I think it's stiff as it's stiff. It is the stiffest call, and it's the guy who's coming in is too good to not play and to not be the number one. And I've got Pitto coming out of this side, even though is it Briggs? Briggs is the ruckman
Yeah,
of the
please.
Giants.
Yeah.
Gee, it'd be a good matchup. That's the one thinking that I've got a little bit of thinking that they might play the two this week, and maybe they're going to get Pitto to play a block of games just to get really ready and right for later in the year. But yeah, Pitto out for me, and Tom DeConing pretty handy in, to be honest,
Yeah.
into that side. And I think he was obviously a bit sore after the Geelong win, so it's good to have him back in the side after a rest. And obviously we still won by 10 goals, so yeah.
And your sub?
It's got to be Hewitt again.
Okay.
But like you said with Kennedy, if he doesn't get up, Hewitt comes into the side for me, and then you probably put a Motlop or even a Carroll as the sub. Really depends on who we're playing. If you're playing the Dogs, you probably next week in terms of midfield, you probably want a sub as the midfielder because they're pretty not stacked in there, but it's probably their best line. I'd imagine. I know they talk about their forward line and all their so-called superstars, but I think their midfield is the most consistent. So you just got to always look ahead, I think. But yeah, Pitto out for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So I've just got a few questions off what you said, but I'll just very quickly touch on what I was kind of thinking with the ins and outs. So I just thought it would be fair to say what my thoughts were if Kennedy was coming out and see,
Yeah.
like let you know what my thinking was. But so ins, Tom DeConning,
Yep.
out, Kennedy, Pitto, Hewitt being upgraded to the 22,
Yep.
Jack Martin sub
Yep.
as a assessment of like he's not injured anymore. He's just like he's back to full training. That's also off maybe the Matt Cottrell of he's a test this week, potentially that sub.
Yep.
Whether it's, I mean, that's probably the only player that other than like if Kennedy does miss this weekend, if Hewitt does get upgraded, maybe that's it. And also Jesse Motlop is another player as well that you could play. But so, I mean, I'll go off what you said as well. So my out would be Kenny. So Kenny would be playing, Pitto out, TDK in, and George Hewitt would be upgraded, but Matt Kennedy would be my sub.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good.
Because of that injury.
Yeah,
Now, if there wasn't any injuries, because last week I put George Hewitt as a sub, and that obviously happened this week. So I just think that if Kennedy and Hewitt are both fit,
Yeah.
I mean, not saying Kennedy's not fit, but I just think
Yeah.
let's play him as sub, see how we go. But the question I was about to ask you, so they were speaking about last night, the podcast, they were speaking about the two rucks, Pitto and TDK, they are locks come finals time. And that's a bit of like, wow.
Yeah.
Tommy Corning, I love as that main ruck, and I just don't think Pitto is like come finals time. I think it's highly contested, but it's like it's down to it's late in the season. Who's gonna run out the games? And I don't think Pitto can do that. And I think that is what cost us in the prelim as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was the reason why we won the semis and elimination final. I don't think that's the reason.
No.
So what's your thoughts on that? What's your overall thoughts on the two rucks heading in? So this week, like, I didn't even think about having TDK and Pitto as the two rucks because it's Briggs and their second ruck is, I'm not too sure, probably like a Riccardi.
Yeah.
They don't have a second ruck. So what's your overall thoughts on that?
I'm not against the two rucks at all.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a lock heading into fight. I'd rather have, like you said, with TDK I'd rather have TDK and Mackay because it's more dynamic.
Yep.
It's much more dynamic. And I think the better teams in the competition are more dynamic. You look at Sydney, you got Grundy and they've got McLean, Amadi as their second rucks. Can we afford to have Pitto and Grundy? I'm not sure. I'm not saying Pitto's in great form. There's nothing wrong with how he's playing. I just don't see him fitting in. I don't think anyone else is deserving of getting dropped at the moment. And can you afford in a prelim final or against Collingwood to have two rucks? I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure. But it's like I said, with the selection, it's going to be interesting to see if he does play this week because then we'll start to get a read on how they're looking at the team. Because I always feel like Pitto has got a part to play. I feel like Michael Voss has always got that. He got something about Pitto. You know what I mean? I feel like he's building him up. I don't know why, but if he plays him this week, I feel like he might play the next block of games where it's the Dogs, North, and they'll see how that kind of runs. But for me, I completely agree with you. If I had to pick, be TDK as the number one and Harry as the second because you almost have midfielders in both of them. They're agile. TDK is probably arguably the top three ruck in the competition. And I don't think you can afford in a prelim or a grand final to not have your best four players in the middle, where it's TDK, Cripps, Walsh, Chera. Can't afford not to when you have it at your disposal.
I think it's always great to have an overall conversation. But Daffy Boy, let's now move on to the opposition watch. Now, for the viewers who don't know what this is, we touch on the back line, midfield, and forward line for the opposition. So we obviously go through the Giants, backline, midfield, and forward, and we touch on one player for each line and kind of explain why they're a bit of a threat come Saturday night, Daffy Boy. But your backline opposition watch for the Giants, who have you got?
Yeah, so I think in terms of their defence, it's probably the most consistent line in this side. My opposition watch is going to be Lee Kalia because I think he was one to watch when we played him last time.
Yep.
I thought he was on Harry, obviously. And I thought he had Harry's number in the first half or three quarters. And then he was kind of off him for 5 minutes in the last quarter, and Harry kicked a couple. So I remember Harry saying that to Aaliyah. Apparently, he said it to Aaliyah saying, "Well, you're off me for 5 minutes. It's weird. Like, you're killing me." But yeah, for me, he's a watch because he's an exciting player. And I think if you look postseason, I think it's going to be a watch in terms of his contract status because there's going to be a few teams going after him. Because if he's he played last week. Well, obviously still without Taylor. So he's only in because Taylor's out, which I find weird because I think he's talented enough to be in that 22. So he's my watch for me, but obviously there are other players down there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But so heading into the finals, then I think Taylor would be. I mean, if Giants make finals, that's now an overall conversation. But Taylor's meant to be back, isn't he?
Yeah. I don't think it's too long. Oh, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. So it's around 17. He can't probably afford to drop too many games without him.
Yeah.
So they're going to be going real hard this week.
Yeah. So their back line is obviously Iden and then a Buckley. So Jack Buckley is obviously covering that Taylor role, and Taylor would come straight back in. So is there enough room there for Lee Kalia when Taylor eventually does come back in?
Yeah, I don't know. It's y- you still got to find a way for him to get in. I think. I just think he's one of those exciting players, a bit of a different draw card for them. And I think at the moment they're kind of at that stagnant. You know what I mean? Like the start of the year, they went bang, and they've kind of just dwindled down, very predictable. So, like with us, you change your personnel a little bit like last year, and you kind of the energy changes. So, I don't know. I think he provides energy down there for him. But yeah, it is a tough back six to get into because you look at the interchange from last week. You got Himmelberg as well,
Yeah.
who plays a key role down there.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Completely agree. Yeah, so my backline opposition watch, I think it's one of their key players in that backline, and it's Lockie Whitfield. I think he's the guy that really does kind of drive the ball movement forward. Now, the question with Lockie Whitfield, and it's a conversation that we love, Daff Boy, and it's Alex Chin Cotter especially tagging a player this week. Do you think he does tag Lockie Whitfield? And if not, whether it's a midfield or a forward from their point of view, who do you reckon he may tag?
That's a great question you ask. Looking around, uh, probably right. You're probably right, to be honest. And especially with he wasn't going to tag Kelly, but they're going to be using Whitfield a lot more. So I think it will be, and I think his impact forward of the ball at Chincotta has been great. He's kicked another 2 goals in the last quarter of the weekend because he works off his opponent really well in the last term when you really need. You know what I mean? Like where you tag him all game, but then you kind of work him so hard that it gets to the last quarter and they kind of forget that they're actually picking him up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're in that mindset that, oh, he's picking me up. I can just play off him. But no. In the last quarter of a game or second half, he goes, no, I'm going to kick you goal. And he
Mm.
did it against the Cats, did it against the Giants, did it against Essendon. Didn't do it against the Giants, did it against Richmond on the weekend. And, I'll really back him in to do it again this weekend.
So you reckon he would go to Whitfield? Like if you were to choose, because another player also Tom Green, who's having a solid season. His
Yeah,
ball use hasn't been overly great, but he's still getting a
yeah.
lot of the footy. So maybe even a Lockie Ash, who is another player that I mean you probably would assume Lockie Whitfield would be a little bit more on the higher rated in terms of the players. But do you reckon right now it would be Whitfield if you were to choose?
Whitfield, yeah, because I think Cripper took Green to school last time we
Yeah,
played him.
yeah.
Cripper had 40 last time we played him, so I'm expecting another 40 for the Cripmeister. But nah, honestly, I think Cripps goes head to head with Green. I don't think we worry too much about that. And you look at their other mids, yeah, I think we get the job done, don't we? In terms of we don't need a tag in the middle.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And so a question before we go to the midfield opposition watch, excuse me. It's Toby Bedford, obviously a player
Yeah,
that's been tagging for the Giants as well. Who um do you think he does tag this week? And out of our players, because there's a lot of players from our point of view, I mean from our side, who do you think Toby Bedford would go to if he does tag this week?
probably Alex Chincotta.
The battle of the tag.
And the tagger on the tagger. No, yeah, he'd probably go to Walsh, I'd imagine.
Mm,
Got a bit of speed. Can't go to Cripper, too
nah,
small.
he's too small. Yeah.
It'd have to be Walsh if it is anyone. Forward the ball, I don't think you can tag really any of our players. I don't, you know what I mean? I think we're too dynamic up forward, and the focus is on the two big fellas. So, um, I wouldn't mind Bedford tagging. Takes his pressure away up forward. If he's
Mm.
gonna have his main focus on our midfielder, it kind of takes away a little part of his game, which is obviously that zip and zap around forward 50, which is a kind of lack. So it's going to be an interesting decision if he does tag. I don't think they should. I think they need him up a half forward because they're struggling. Their forwards are struggling, and that headlines through Toby Green, who's had a kind of lackluster year.
Mm. I just think a player that really comes to my mind if I was in the Giants coaching staff, and it's Toby Bedford going to Adam Sard. Because
Yeah.
one, it
Mm.
minuses, and then obviously Jordan Boyd with the one
Yeah.
match ban.
Get
That's
off.
another conversation in its own right. But when's that meant to be happening? When is that whole thing meant to be happening?
It might be
Thursday.
tonight.
I thought it was
Tonight?
Thursday. I don't know
Well,
why.
he's chat. No, it'll be tonight. I think he's challenging it. So
Right.
he,
Okay.
if he doesn't get off, Patto,
Oh,
if he doesn't get off for that, I said it at the game. I said he will get a week for that. I said it'll be absolute rubbish,
mm,
but he will get a week. I was just so guaranteed. I wasn't even shocked when he got it. I was like, fuck, look, really, he dives his head. He'll play this week, I think. But
yeah.
yeah, like you said, with Sard, he's probably got the pace to keep up with him. But once again, if he's in our, I don't know. It's just we're taking his strengths away if he's focusing on our men. So hopefully he does tag.
You know exactly right. Let's now move on to our midfield opposition watch staff. Boy, now obviously, as you mentioned in the injury list, Josh Kelly is out for 4 to 5 weeks. With his injury. So that's obviously very unfortunate for the Giants' point of view. As we've mentioned, he is a crucial player for the Giants, and he's been kicking a lot more goals as a midfielder as well. So your midfield opposition watch, Staffy boy, who would you have down?
Yeah, so without Josh Kelly in the side, I think they've probably got, often when those guys who use the ball a lot going forward to the ball are out, they usually go to the next in line. So, and I think that's Finn Callahan.
Yes.
Callahan, sorry. I think he's a left footer. He's a good kick, but it's going to stretch him without Kelly because you look at their wingers on the weekend. You got Callum Ward. He played on the wing a bit on the weekend. Like they're kind of stretched out with these injuries, and and even without him, people talk about their midfield, but I think they're a little bit, probably that one or two mid short, genuine mid short who are really good. I know they got Camilio and I think Callahan's more of a winger for me. If he was at Carlton, he'd be a winger,
Yeah.
I reckon. Obviously we've got the mids, but I think that if I was going to pick a side with Callahan in it, it'd be on the wing. I just think he's that type of player. So I think they'll use him more, on the outside and, players like Lockie Ash, like you said. But yeah, my eyes on him. I think if we can eliminate his ball use going forward, I think it'll be huge because I think, Canelio's a good player, Green's a good player, but I think Callahan's a much better ball user going forward.
I think like a Ryan Agwin is also a guy that could come in because he was obviously omitted last week. So
Yeah.
he plays a lot on the wing and he's that left footer as well. So I don't know if maybe that's just that automatic swap and then you have Finn Callahan playing the Josh Kelly role. I'm not too sure. But even like a Xavier Orihara is another player that's been kind of rejuvenated as a midfielder, but he's another player who was obviously omitted last week. So I'm not sure, but yeah. So my midfield opposition watch, it's a bit generic. I've gone a little bit generic this weekend. It's Tom Green. I think he's obviously the threat down there. I've just realised my opposition watch for all three lines, they're all very generic. So for the four, I'll be like, fuck me, Patto, try to think a little bit outside the box, mate. But yeah, Tom Green, obviously as if I can actually speak, as we've mentioned, I think he's obviously he's been sold this year, but I just think his ball use hasn't been up to the scratch of Tom Green of what he usually is. He always gets the contested possessions, he always gets the tackles, but it's the ball use of when he does get the uncontested possessions. He just isn't hitting the targets as much as he usually would and usually has in the past. So I think he's a watch. And yeah, so as we mentioned with Tom Green and Paddy Cripps, potentially that being a matchup, is that a thing that you see definitely happening this week?
Yeah, for sure, because I think Tom Green is a Patrick Cripps kind of prototype.
Yeah.
Tall, big, inside, like you said. I think they're the exact same player, but just 6-7 years apart. I just think it's kind of the master versus the apprentice in a sense, and Cripper showed that last time, and it'll be interesting to see how players do remember matchups when they get beaten. So it'll be interesting to see how they attack that, especially how Green attacks the game.
Yeah, and also for the people who haven't watched the podcast, so Tom Green was on Dylan Friends probably about two months ago. Excuse me, God, I've got saying in my throat now, so I just feel like I can't speak that boy. But yeah, so he was mentioning. So I think Buckley asked Green about who's been like your kind of like your mentors and your role models heading into the AFL system. And the first player he said was Patrick Cripps.
Yep.
And he kind of idolizes his game very much on Patrick Cripps. And as soon as you see Tom Green play, you kind of think straight away that it's Patrick Cripps and he's that future leader as well. Like he will be the captain of the club in a few years' time. I think a lot of people would be
Mhm.
saying otherwise, but I think Tom Green is the absolute lock to lead this club heading into the next few years. But yeah, I think that was also a big thing because I think he mentioned I don't know I think he mentioned Bontempelli as well, but he also enjoys playing on Patrick Cripps, which is quite an interesting thing to hear because he's obviously his role model, but it's a player that plays a lot like Patrick
Yeah.
Cripps. What's your overall thoughts on that? Like, do you think Tom Green is like he plays a lot like Patrick Cripps, and if they're pretty much the whole way he plays is pretty much similar to how Patrick Cripps plays?
No, I think they're exactly the same. I look at him and go, gee, they are alike. And I think that's why he likes playing him.
Yeah.
'Cause, like obviously you said he enjoyed playing on him, but probably round 5 he probably didn't necessarily enjoy it for the 4 quarters. But I think in terms of his enjoyment is seeing that Cripps is like the finished product of Tom Green. I think
Yes.
that's why he enjoys it. He goes, that's where I want to be. He's a Brownlow medalist, which is good. Talking about this is weird because I remember when Cripps was coming up, and he was just a different midfielder to a lot of midfielders. He's that 6'3", 6'4" ball. That there was always big. There's not always been big midfielders, so I guess it's someone that Tom Green can lean on and I'm sure he's probably shot him a few messages and had a
Mm.
chat to him post game, and that's why he enjoys it. He enjoys the challenge of it because Cripps would be such a challenging player to play on. That's why he's untaggable because like he's too big.
Yes.
He'll somehow find his way to get the footy contested ball, and now he's finding his footy uncontested ball. So what are you going to do? And then if you're tagging him, he'll play half forward and kick a goal. Like that's what Tom Green probably aspires to be. And when you talk about his ball use, Cripps's ball use wasn't always great,
No.
and he's improved that. And like I said, he is pretty much the finished product right now of where he wants to be. Patrick Cripps, the top of the top echelon midfielder, can use the ball, but also be a rampaging ball inside.
Yeah, and I think one of the because you mentioned then about the Patrick Cripps being the untaggable, and the one player that really comes to my mind is Alex Chin-Connor. I think he's the only player that could really tag Paddy Cripps, and I don't know if we'll ever see that because Chin-Connor will be a premiership player, 4-time pretty kind of boy. But let's now move on to the forward line opposition watch. Now, obviously, I've given a little bit of a spoiler. Mine is very, very generic. So definitely your forward line opposition watch for the Giants. Who have you got?
Um, we haven't been playing Cadman the last few weeks, which I've found interesting. They played Max Grzuski
Yeah, he's a bit.
up forward, so that'll be interesting to see the selection there. Maybe Cadman comes in. Geez, a good player to be leaving out of that side. So obviously he's had some form issues, but that happens. I know you're going with a generic one. I think I know who you're going to be going for. So I'll be going for the Irishman. Callum Brown. I like the way he goes about it, Callum Brown.
Nice. Yeah.
He's I didn't realise he was Irish till about probably 9 months ago. Just doesn't, there's just something about him. I just don't think he's Irish. He's a forward. Usually Irish players are mids or wingers or half backs. He's a key kind of forward in a sense, probably that third tall. Excuse me. But yeah, like I just think he's a really good player when he's on and he kicks his goals. He's reminds me of a kind not it's not he's not the same player, but he's like always he just comes up and kicks 3 or 4 all of a sudden. You
Yeah.
go, oh, he's had a quiet one, then you go, oh, in the third term he's kicked 3 or 4 goals. Like, okay. So he's a player to watch, and I think we can match up really well against their forward line in particular, but especially him, because you've got a few guys who can play at kind of second to third tall, whether it's Kemp, McGovern. There's always the talk about Marchbank. Maybe he plays a game at some stage at the back end of the season. We don't know. There's always possibilities with that. So yeah, he's my one to watch because I think I know who you're going to be picking.
Yeah, it's a really good comparison actually about Callum Brown because like very much like Matt Owies, they love a goal.
They
Absolutely love a
do.
goal. So Callum
They
Brown, I
do.
don't know if you've seen him but when he kicks a goal, he celebrates, doesn't he? He loves it. Matt Owies with the jumper punch and doing the
Yeah.
big yeah, like they
Yeah.
actually love it. So I don't know if Matt always has a bit of Irish blood in his what would you call it? The background, buddy. I just
Yeah.
completely blank then.
Good Patto.
But now it's time for my very generic forward line opposition watch. And It's dark. I was about to say, I was about to like look and be like, it's Harvey Thomas, the number 20, but he's actually sold that guy.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he's actually solid. He's actually like he probably is keeping a few players out of the side, but yeah, unfortunately, I'm a little bit boring today, and it's Toby Green. As soon as you look into that forward line, it's the captain of the footy club, but also it's a guy who has been out of form past few weeks, and I think he I don't know who they played, but a couple of weeks ago at Andrew Stadium, he had the chance to kick.
Yeah.
What? Who was it against?
Port Adelaide. It was like
Port Adelaide. Yes, it was
0-4 or
yeah.
1-5 or
I
something.
think it was
like
1-5. Yeah, 1-5, and I'm just like that shows he's getting the shots.
Yeah.
So eventually, the more shots he gets, he's going to turn that into goals. So I think that's a bit of a watch this week. But for Toby Green, who do you think would go to Toby Green right now in your mind?
There's no other. Mr. Consistent.
Yeah.
Nick Newman.
Like
Pocketed him last year. He pocketed
Yeah.
him this year. You're going to have to play him. And then also heard him on the other way. Heard him going the other way because I thought Newey was one of our best. And I look back on my votes and I almost think it's stiff that he didn't make my votes because he was fucking phenomenal on the weekend. And I had to drop the F-bomb because he was great on the weekend.
Yeah.
Just taking intercept marks, like I said. And I think he's the perfect matchup for Green. They're kind of that like 6'1". And the thing about Newey, he's that type of footballer that he's just not afraid of the challenge, is he? And he'll let him know about certain things all game. Like he'd give me a bit of push and shove. Like last week, he did this big punch and he let Ryan Mansell know, like little shove in the back, going, I've got you, mate, all day. No, all day. You know what I mean? Like that little, CUNT about him. Newey, I think he's the perfect matchup for you and Toby Green.
Yeah, no, love it. This is very much off topic, and you mentioned earlier, and when you kind of looked like I think that this was off air, but you mentioned how you look like a bit like a tomato. Bloody, I've just realised my cheeks. What's going on there? But I don't know if I'm a little bit hot of this jumper or not, definitely. But I think it was just the thoughts of Alex Chincotta kicking some goals. But
At NG Stadium.
That NG Stadium, we do play well there.
Yeah, we do. That is a fact. Yeah.
So now this will be interesting, and it's the match predictions. That's what we'll move on to now. And obviously, for the people who don't know what this is, we go through bag of the game, which is the player that we think is going to be the bag of the game. Obviously, as I just said, quite self-explanatory. But it doesn't need to be the best player in terms of stats. It just is the player that we think is the most impactful player come Saturday night. Point of difference, which is once again quite self-explanatory. The player that could kind of turn the game against the Giants on Saturday night, and of course the winner plus margin, the very highly anticipated winner plus margin. So, Daffer Boy, your match predictions. Who have you got?
Oh, mate, these match predictions are. I don't know what this game's going to be like, to be honest. I can't really get a read on where it's going to go, but I think we're going to win. But I just don't know how. But bag of the game, he's coming in. He had a week off. He's going to absolutely wipe the floor with Kieran Briggs. He did it last time. I remember that last quarter. Briggs was knackered. Yeah. He could not move. He could not move in the last quarter. I remember there was footage where TDK won the tap, ran forward, kicked the goal, and Briggs was still in the centre square. So I think that's where we can really exploit them. Briggs is a good physical ruckman, but he's coming up against a guy. I've never seen a player who wills the ball wills himself to get the ball. So TDK, bagger of the game, if he is in, point of difference. What a difference. He's been the point of difference a few times. And he's getting a lot of media recognition now of being an absolute steal in the trade period of 2023. Elijah Hollins he's the point of difference, isn't he, Patto? I think his nickname is Pod.
Yeah, Pod, yeah.
And it's Pod for me now, the point of difference. I think he just, he's good. He is good. He didn't get the votes on the weekend, but he definitely could have. I know a lot of players, but his link-up game in the middle of the ground broke open those 7 goals in however many minutes. He just plods himself in the middle, goes, give me the ball. I'll pop it on my right or left foot, and I'll hit the tit of any of our forwards. So shout out to him. He'll be a point of difference. Elijah Holt, winner plus margin. Well, winner. I think we're going to win this game. I don't know if it's going to be a 50 plus this week. I think it's more of a get the points and get the fuck out of there this week. I think that's what type of game this is this week. It's not going to be 50 plus, but I'm going the Blue Baggers by 49 points. No. No, kidding. That's a joke because the whole 50. No, I've got us by 22 points at NG Stadium. I think we get the job done. The 49 was a joke because I said no 50 plus, but 49 is bloody close to 50. But no, 22. I think they give us a red hot crack, but I just think we're just better, Patto. Simple as that.
Well, you will find out why I reacted when you said 49 points. You will find out why. So my match prediction. So bagger of the game, and you mentioned there about Tom Conning, the other bagger of the game, and he's due for a big game this week.
Yep.
And it's Harry Mackay. Well, he has been solid. He's actually not really had a poor game all year.
No, he hasn't. No.
I think Sam Taylor being out, Jack Buckley will go straight to Charlie Curnow. I don't know if Lee Kalir maybe plays on Charlie Curnow as well. I'm not too sure. What do you think?
Alir's got to go to Mackay. He played well in last time.
And
then Buckley to Charles.
How do you see that happening?
I see our forwards kicking a lot of goals. I just don't know if they've got the power down there to stop us, to be honest. And not just saying the big boys, but the way we're scoring. That's why I just think we'll win 4 goals. I just think we're better, Patto. That's the state we're in right now, Patto.
Yep.
Just fantastic.
Exactly right. So so bagger of the game, Harry Mackay. Point of difference, you said Elijah Hollins.
Yep.
I'm going Ollie Hollins. So that was actually quite funny because I'm like, he said Elijah, but I'm going his brother. And the reason for this, Cottrell's on his tail.
Yeah.
Jackson Binns could be on his tail. He probably won't be, but Jackson Binns could be on his tail. Yep. He needs to prove himself this week if he wants to be this winger and keep in this best 22 where Orazio is playing well as that role if there is one. I think we say that almost every episode, but I think
he is.
Yeah, so I think Orazio is doing really well in that role, and I think there's pressure on Ollie Hollins, and I think it's up to him now because he knows that, we're a good side, and I can't miss out of this opportunity.
Yeah,
I need to not pull your finger out, but have more of an impact this week. And I mentioned in the comments as well. He does a lot of unrewarded running, unrewarding running, but also it's. He just needs to get more and more of the footy because Blake has the other side of the wing. And whether that's the reason why he's not getting a lot of the footy because the other wing is getting 30 touches on the weekend. So you can't really do much about that. But I just think it's this week where Cottrell is a test. He might not come back in this week. I'm not too sure. But potentially, that's also another thing. We haven't brought in Matt Cottrell this week. When he was a test. So that's also another conversation as to maybe he might be a sub. I'm not sure. But I think Ollie Hollins has a point of difference this week. He has a point to prove this week. But now winner plus margin, Daffy boy.
No.
Now the reason why I kind of reacted because I've got Carlton by 48 points. 48 points. And I'm not kidding. I wrote down
not against that.
Josh Kelly out.
Yep.
Sam Taylor out. I know that Giants now have a bit of pressure and they usually do kind of show themselves, but I reckon we are so much better.
Yeah, that's the thing that people go, they got something to play for, but
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. They're not playing Port Adelaide. They're playing Carlton.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can be so wound up about winning this game and be so up and about. We don't care. We're just going to roll up and do our thing and beat you. We are hard to beat at the moment. I think that's where I'm kind of coming at. We're not just good. There's good teams. But I think earlier in the year, we were easier to beat in that patch, that small patch where I thought we almost overreacted a bit where Collingwood beat us.
Mm-hmm.
We are hard to beat now.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They have to be on their game, the Giants, to beat us. They have to be at their best. They're a little bit off. We win easy. We win easy.
And I feel like that's why, like as you said, I think it's not really down to if the opposition has a point to prove, because Geelong had a point to prove.
Yeah, Essendon
the week before had a point to prove. What happened?
Yep.
So and we didn't even show up in the first half against Essendon.
Yeah.
And like against Richmond as well, like they didn't really have a point to prove, but it seemed like they were playing for something in that first half. What happens in that third quarter? So I mean, I'm very excited, and it's just great that I this, and I'm like, I'm not comfortable about it, but like it's what I think. Because 48 points, it realistically should be more. If we're beating the Cats by 63 points, like that's a.
We get another 50-point win. If we get a 50-point win, call the season off. Bring the cut. Seriously.
Yeah.
We're putting these teams away who've got talent. Like that Geelong win is looking even better after last week because they just beat Essendon by fucking 40.
Yep.
Sky's the limit, Patto, and I have nothing against your call of the margin.
Yeah. But now I'm just a little bit nervous because you watch, it will probably be Carlton by 10 points, and I'll be like, oh, fuck. But I think Carlton by 48 points is what I think. But yeah, I also very much agree with your match predictions as well, but definitely. But before we wrap up the episode, is there anything else you would like to touch on before we wrap it up and head towards the Giants Saturday night?
Yeah, it's round 17. It'd be nice to get to 12 wins to take a little bit of the edge off. The rest, like don't lose this, and then Dogs next week, which I think we should win. But it's just, take a little bit of the pressure off and then just get in the second spot and not worry about it. So, yeah, it's exciting times, and it's good to have an interstate game, to be honest. So I'm looking forward to just feet up on the couch Saturday night, get a dub, and then head out to Swan Street for a few beers with the boys.
Well, unfortunately, I'm bloody working that night, so I'm working all day. So I will, and I'm actually not working on the game, which I'm kind of flat about. So I'll have the two screens up where it'll be the Carlton game. Yeah. We have the audio on the Carlton game, then fuck the other game. Yeah, but like, what's the other game? I think it's Port Adelaide, Sydney. No, it's not.
No, Sydney's got Saints. Couldn't tell you. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? It just doesn't.
It's not the Port Adelaide Saints game. I didn't even realise it was on.
Oh, I worked on that game.
Oh God! Did they pay it? Did they pay a triple? What? Did they pay a triple to work on that game?
Bloody wish. Bloody wish. But I mean, it doesn't really matter because I got paid to sleep. So
that's what I think, mate. I'm working on Saints Swans this weekend on Sunday. Even if they win by 80, I'm getting paid. I'm not complaining.
Yeah. Is that at Marvel?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that would be at. Oh yeah. Why would it be in Sydney? What they would pay it at Sydney? Why would I ask that? But I mean, Marvel St Kilda games at Marvel. Bit of another hate at St Kilda. I don't know why, but like just the crap games at Marvel Stadium for Saints like games. It's terrible. I don't know.
There hasn't been a good game.
Oh,
like they've been close games, but they've all been fucking terrible.
Terrible.
The Gold Coast game a few weeks ago was awful. I think this week
44 points
they'll get destroyed this week.
Yeah,
they won't be able to hold Swans to under 70. Like even Swans coming off a loss, they will absolutely destroy them. There'll be more Swans fans in the stadium. They always have good support. So yeah.
Is that on the Sunday?
Sunday Arvo.
No, yeah. Is that the graveyard shift?
Hey. Graveyard. I'm not against the graveyard.
Yeah. But anyways, that's for another great episode. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe it's bloody up to round 17. That is unbelievable how quickly the season goes. And next week it's round 18, and then there's bloody 5 more rounds of the season left. So to every single blue bagger out there, if you do enjoy our content, we upload a preview and a review every single week. But we are also on the road to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So make sure to subscribe. It's completely free. It doesn't cost you anything on YouTube. So make sure to subscribe. It really does help grow the channel. So make sure to get around that. But also make sure to get around our podcast platforms. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts. There's a few other platforms as well, Daffy Boy. But make sure to get around there. Get around the socials as well. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Name the socials, and we are most likely on them. So to every single blue bagger, AFL supporter, general sports supporter, I don't even know, even if you aren't into sport and you want to watch a bit of entertainment, I don't think we're overly entertaining, but if you do find us a little bit entertaining, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But to you, Daffy Boy, and to every single blue bagger out there,
Out the
the Baggers.
baggers.